My uncle Victor Charles always had William Shakespeare and his plays deep in his heart. I've always believed he paid a high price for going up to Hollywood. The money was up there in Hollywood, but William Shakespeare's words were at the Oak Globe Theater in Balboa Park, San Diego. His dear friend, actor Jonathan McMurtry, kept working at the Oak Globe Theater for nearly 50 years, and he performed in every Shakespearean play that was ever written. But who was enriched the most by the productions they acted in, it certainly goes to Jonathan McMurtry. There are some things in life that cannot buy happiness from making money, because you have to follow your heart. Victor Charles was in the television program Perry Mason on April 2, 1964, titled The Case of the Simple Simon. His role was John Sylvester Fawcett, and the executive producer was Gail Patrick Jackson. In the local newspaper in my hometown El Cajon, California, in April 1964, it printed, "Actor Victor Buono, whose home is in Encino, spent several days last week in El Cajon as the house guest of his brother and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Wayne Erreca, and watched his nephew, Wayne, play ball with the Yankees in the Western Little League. Mr. Buono's latest film is The Strangler, and played recently on the Perry Mason Show. He also spent some time visiting his grandmother, Mrs. Myrtle Keller, recuperating from a broken leg." I remember looking out of the dugout during my baseball game, and I saw my Uncle Victor Charles sitting on the third row of the bleachers, and there were many people swirling around him. I think the fans saw more of him than they did the game. I can't remember which team won, but Victor Charles was the clear winner of the day. During 1964, my Uncle David Francis Buono came to live with us for a short period of time. I believe it was due to their relocation to Encino, California, that created troublesome issues for him, and he most likely had difficulties adjusting leaving his girlfriend and his friends back in San Diego. David Francis was 17 years old, and I was 11 years old, and I loved having him share my bedroom with me. Even though he was my uncle, I considered him more like a brother. It was a wonderful time then, but when he did finally have to leave and return to Encino, I was completely crushed because my favorite brother had gone away. On June 24, 1964, Victor Charles was again on the silver screen with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Bing Crosby in the motion picture Robin and the Seven Hoods. He played the role of Deputy Sheriff Alvin Potts, and the producer was none other than Frank Sinatra. One thing that Frank Sinatra hated more than anything else is being called a loser. The critics were rather sour on Robin and the Seven Hoods and described it as being rather cheesy and dated, especially with Bing Crosby's performance in it. He had Dean Martin and Victor Buono in his last motion picture, Four for Texas, and it didn't help any having Victor Charles's The Strangler being a huge loser. Take notice of the small print Victor Charles received in a newspaper review saying only, "Victor Buono as a cop." Those 4 words were the only print that they gave him in his performance of Robin and the Seven Hoods. The days of being congratulated as being nominated by the Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane was now long gone, and he would never be in another motion picture with Frank Sinatra ever again. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when Frank Sinatra was talking about Victor Charles's debacle of The Strangler. Whatever relationship they once had, it definitely now was over for good, for the rest of his entire career in Hollywood. During 1964, it was his least productive year since coming to Hollywood in 1960. He was only in 1 television program that year, and it was Perry Mason. Did Victor Charles's agent, Jerry Rosen, have difficulties finding other roles for him because of the bad publicity from the disastrous motion picture, The Strangler? On December 15, 1964, Victor Charles desperately needed a winning rebound after his following Grace in Hollywood. And finally, a breath of air of good luck came his way in the motion picture Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, directed by Robert Aldrich, and Victor Charles was once again playing in the small role as Betty Davis's father, Sam Hollis. On July 12, 1964, the newspaper printed, "Buono again with Crawford and Davis." Eventually, though, Joan Crawford dropped out of the film. On July 23, 1964, Victor Charles shared a few of his words in writer Vernon Scott's article covering the motion picture of Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, saying, "I've started on television when I was 18 years old, and I've specialized in playing old men. In this picture I play Bet's father. People don't think of my private life, but you'd be surprised how difficult it was for me to get a date with a girl my own age. They've seen me play these older roles and take me for a dirty old man. I resent that, but I don't resent the kidding and jokes about my size and weight. I guess I'm the only actor in the business who can play Falstaff without padding. My weight doesn't bother me physically, and my doctor tells me my heart is in perfect condition. My feet get a little tired now and again, but I try to keep my weight as steady as possible. I lost 80 pounds recently because I was getting too heavy. My tailor took in my clothes, but nobody else even noticed. On anyone else, the change would have been dramatic. On me, it didn't show." At the end of 1964, it would take a number of years for Victor Charles to shake off the bad, tainted memories of The Strangler. It had crippled him and made it more difficult for him to be cast in any future television programs and motion pictures. In Hollywood, if an actor loses their popularity, it's a sure bet they will need a miracle to survive and prosper on into the future. In 1965, he would be facing uncharted challenges after his Waterloo debacle movie, The Strangler, and he would be looking deeply inside his soul. Good news came quickly, though, on December 4th, 1964, and he was cast in the motion picture, The Greatest Story Ever Told. It was a story of Jesus Christ, and Victor Charles would be playing in the role of Zorak, the priest. He would be working with Angela Lansbury as Claudia, Jose Ferrer as Herod Antipas, and Ed Wynn as Old Aram. and many other celebrated actors and actresses. The director was legendary George Stevens, and the motion picture was released in February of 1965.